Sesame Street scrambling to do damage control today after Elmo's ex got hacked this weekend. The account of America's favorite furry red monster shocking its 500,000+ followers with a string of posts, not only making anti-Semitic and racist comments, but also a derogatory reference to President Trump in connection to the Jeffrey Epstein investigation, according to the Associated Press. NBC News did not independently review the posts before they were deleted. Sesame Workshop, the nonprofit behind Elmo and Sesame Street, confirming to NBC News the account was hacked, calling the post, quote, disgusting, and adding they're working to restore full control of the account. Needless to say, the post's not on brand for the friendly Muppet.
It's very important to respect everybody.
Elmo going viral last year, inadvertently starting a mental health campaign when he tweeted, "How's everybody doing?"
And Elmo's glad that he got to talk to a lot of people.
Now, after the hack, Senator Mike Lee posting "I'm forever scarred by Elmo." Words I never expected to utter. Democrat Representative Jared Moskowitz trying to turn attention to a different controversy facing public broadcaster, posting, "See what happens when you defund PBS?" The Senate is expected to vote this week on whether to take back $1.1 billion from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, which funds both NPR and PBS. Trump demanding Republicans defund the Corporation for Public Broadcasting or risk losing his endorsement. The executive order pushing for the cuts said NPR and PBS provide biased and partisan news coverage. The heads of those organizations pushing back with NPR's chief executive, also emphasizing that people relying on independent local stations, especially in rural regions, will feel the impact immediately.
Good afternoon.
Senate Minority Leader Schumer threatening a shutdown if Republicans, quote, cave to the president's demands.
It is not okay. Ask the Republicans why they are heading on this path.
A path that's marked with uncertainty for the future of public media and support for projects like Sesame Street.
Welcome, everybody, to the Sheeple Is As Sheeple Does channel. These are the types of stories that really crack me up, because we obviously know that Elmo's Twitter account wasn't really hacked. Whose motive would it be to hack a Sesame Street character's Twitter handle so that they could post, quote unquote, anti-Semitic posts, also known as disgusting messages? This, of course, is your government hacking their own account or just having straight up access to it so that they can create more and more and more hate speech so that we could bring in more and more restrictions on what we can and cannot say online. These are the types of things that obviously lead towards a digital ID, so people will be held accountable for the things they do on the internet, because we all know there's nothing more harmful in the world than words, at least in the year 2025. That seems to be the main concern that we constantly hear about. And this isn't the first time that we've had these types of incidences revolving around Elmo, or is it the first time that we've had these anti-Semitic posts showing up on the internet? So of course we know this not only leads to hate speech laws and hate speech crimes in America, because that's the next step, that's the evolution of hate speech, is criminalizing it, putting you in jail for things that you actually say. And people seem to agree with it, as you saw in that clip. Now, I don't know what's more embarrassing, the fact that we live in a country where we're talking about a puppet on the national news and a Twitter account for a puppet, a fake, fictitious, demonic little puppet. And remember, as we saw a little while ago, I covered this in 2024, where Elmo asked people online how they were doing. And millions of people who are in such a deep psychosis responded to the fictional Elmo Twitter handle, telling Elmo their deepest, darkest secrets, how they were feeling that day. And these people don't believe that they're in some type of psychosis when they're commenting online to an actual puppet. This is the state of America now. You even saw one politician say, "I'm forever scarred by Elmo." Well, he's probably the guy who put the tweets up himself, because we know that they are hell-bent on bringing in these hate crime laws, and they're also hell-bent, of course, on bringing in the Noahide laws eventually, and most Christians will be duped into thinking that it has something to do with Christianity and protecting Christianity, but it's not. It's actually going to censor Christianity. So the story goes, which again, couldn't be more fictional. Nobody, you got to wonder when these stories actually occur. Does anybody out there for like 5 seconds say to themselves, like, who would hack a puppet? Of all the hacking you could do, of all the people you could be able to hack, right? Somebody who's very hated, or why would somebody choose Elmo from Sesame Street? But we know that Elmo plays a deep role in the American psychosis. So his Twitter account posted anti-Semitic and racist posts after it was hacked on Sunday. Elmo's ex has briefly been compromised. I mean, this is what I'm reading about a puppet. The puppet's account was briefly compromised yesterday by an unknown hacker. Of course it was an unknown hacker. It's always an unknown hacker. The government controls the internet, yet there's hackers who somehow can mysteriously get away with this. What does the FBI and CIA do all day, other than, of course, use weather modification to drown us out, as we're seeing all across America right now? What do? They can't figure out a VPN or who could possibly be behind it, right? Not as though this is actually a crime, but they want you to believe that it's a crime. They want you to want justice for Elmo. I'm sure that'll be a hashtag that's trending sooner than later. So the spokesperson said the social media account, which is verified and has more than 600,000 followers, has since been secured. Well, thank goodness. Thank goodness. And nobody's alarmed that Elmo the puppet has 600,000 followers on Twitter. Nobody's alarmed by that. Nobody thinks, it's a little bit strange that grown-ups are following a puppet and then watching and retweeting what the puppet writes and then actually interacting with the puppet. Yeah, we don't have any problems here in America. So the post contains slurs against the Jewish people and commentary about President Trump and Jeffrey Epstein, the disgraced financier and convicted sex offender who killed himself in prison in 2019 as he faced federal sex trafficking charges. The posts were removed Sunday afternoon shortly after appearing on the platform. Epstein's case has been back in the news since the Justice Department and FBI released a report saying their review had found no evidence of a long-rumored client list. And okay, let me guess, right? Let's take a wild guess here. I guess it was a Democrat, right, who hacked into Elmo's account because, of course, everything they do is based on the left-right paradigm. So you see that, you see anti-Semitic slurs being posted on Elmo's account, you're automatically supposed to believe it's some Democrat, some blue-haired crazy, right? Some pro-Palestinian, pro-Palestine character that the government continues to manufacture because they just continue to divide people and divide and divide and divide. It's more than just the left-right divide. We see division within the MAGA party, right? The people who are pro-Musk and who are anti-Musk, and we see division with everything going on with Epstein, and they just continue to divide the people so that the people aren't united in any way, shape, or form. So the Anti-Defamation League, our friends over at the Anti-Defamation League, have also been tracking a rise in anti-Semitic incidents in the U.S. The nonprofit organization said that last year. Nonprofit. Yeah, you know how much money the Anti-Defamation League makes off of our taxes? Yeah, pretty insane amount, right? Because you'd say, well, the Anti-Defamation League, who's there? How are they making income? How are these people homeowners, right? Usually, like when you have a product, you're like selling or you're, distributing. No, they just have a website, Anti-Defamation League, and they're all wealthy people off of our dime. But, don't think twice about that because we need an Anti-Defamation League so that you can't question certain groups of individuals who need to be protected. So the organization said it recorded 9,354 anti-Semitic incidences nationwide, which is the highest number since it started monitoring more than 4 decades ago. That marked a 5% increase in incidences since 2023 and an 893% increase over the last decade. So just horrible, right, folks? Just absolutely horrible that this would happen to Elmo. And speaking of which, if we're going to talk about some of the classics from Elmo, not only did we have Elmo tweeting out how everybody's doing and getting all these people who are just dead asleep corresponding with the puppet from Sesame Street, don't forget the wonderful things that have been brought to us by Sesame Street. Because as you heard in the news clip, the threat of PBS and the threat of state-run media. Ooh, we might lose state-run media. Oh my goodness. What will we do without the propaganda of state-run media? Well, of course, every single news station is state-run media, whether it's liberal news or Fox News. It's all owned by the same people at BlackRock and Vanguard and City Street. So we know that they own all the news anyway, right? But how could we ever forget those good times from Sesame Street? The Cookie Monster, Big Bird, or how about when Elmo and the people at Sesame Street brainwashed young kids out there and poisoning themselves? Remember this?
Like Elmo.
Getting your COVID vaccine, Elmo.
There was a little pinch, but it was okay. Okay.
He's not the first character to get the vaccine. Big Bird, as you may recall, got his. Well, now kids under 5 can get the COVID vaccine.
But I have to say, it's wonderful to actually see all of you. And looks like you and your families have been staying healthy.
I have a way I've been staying healthy, Dr. Sanjay. Look, this is from my COVID vaccine.
Rosita, that's great. Getting the COVID vaccine is a great way to stay healthy.
You know, COVID vaccines are now available for children. And the more people who get them, the better we're going to be able to help stop the spread of COVID.
Good times over at Sesame Street, right? Talk about blood on your hands. Of course, nobody was held accountable at Sesame Street. This is the type of stuff that they're putting on television, gearing it towards young children, 5-year-olds, 3-year-olds, to go and ask mom and dad if they can go get something because Elmo got it. And some of the other bizarre characters, some creepy characters like Big Bird or whatever else that green thing was. I don't even know what some of these characters even are anymore. They just continue to, I guess, mutate and make, caricatures of each one because they all look identical. But that wasn't just a great time on Sesame Street. Remember the time that Sesame Street featured 2 dads? That was my favorite.
And here locally, gay rights activists say it does mark a milestone.
Okay.
We're here!
For 5 decades, Sesame Street has been a valuable teaching tool for children.
I want you to meet my brother Dave,
Hi.
his husband Frank,
Hi.
and my sobrina Mia, my
Hi.
niece.
Hi, Mia.
Papi, Daddy, Sesame Street is even more amazing than he said.
And for Pride Month, the kids program introduces a gay family with 2 dads.
Wow. All our families are so different.
Yeah, there's all kinds of different families. But what makes us a family is that we love each other.
That's true.
I'm so pleased that Sesame Street is doing this, and I hope other programs will follow suit.
Jeff Graham with the Georgia Equality Organization welcomes the representation, saying it reflects our communities. Here in Georgia, the organization estimates that 1/3 of same-sex couples are raising children.
So all children deserve to be seen and be able to be seeing themselves reflected on children's television.
This is nothing new for Sesame Street, which this year introduced 2 new Muppet characters, which are African American.
The color of our skin is an important part of who we are.
Race, just one of the issues Sesame Street has tackled, along with hunger and addiction. Now same-sex couples can be added to that list.
And so it's not part of some big agenda. It's not politics. It's just reality. It's just families. It's just letting kids know that if they come from whatever sort of makeup of family, their family is important, their family is respected, and their family counts.
Now, Georgia Equality would like to see other members of the LGBTQ community represented as well, and they are hopeful that this latest milestone episode is just the start.
So all the wonderful things we get from Sesame Street, now we get Elmo coming out and speaking the truth. I mean, Elmo coming out and speaking just hateful, derogatory things, but we know it wasn't the real Elmo. We know it wasn't the real Elmo. It was just some deep state hacker in Russia who said, hey, I'm going to hack into Sesame Street Elmo's Twitter handle, not the president of the United States, not a senator or somebody, a famous celebrity, a puppet from Sesame Street. I'm going to hack into it and I'm going to put all this stuff out there so that everybody thinks that it's these crazy Democrats who are anti-Semitic so that we can bring in more hate speech laws. So poor Elmo. But thankfully, Elmo, Elmo has the cure for all that hate speech. He has the vax, right? Is Elmo, Elmo's clock is probably ticking as we speak. But Sesame Street has brought us such wonderful things over the years. And this is their latest thing that they put out there. We're supposed to believe that some random hacker did it. It wasn't the government themselves who was hell-bent on bringing in hate speech laws. So it couldn't have been them. It just happened to be some actor. Is that what they call them now? Some actor acting alone from nobody knows where because our government apparently can't track them even though our government runs the internet, right? Couldn't find out who this man was. And even if you did find out, oh my goodness, he wrote stuff on the internet. He should probably be going to jail, right? That's the next thing they're going to convince everybody of. When you have your digital ID, you can't write stuff anonymously. And in fact, you could be prosecuted for hurting people's feelings. So Sesame Street over the years has delivered wonderful programming, like getting the kids to go and shoot themselves up, or getting, two dads on Sesame Street. Just wonderful things. This isn't propaganda news at all geared towards young children. This is the type of stuff we need. Give me an utter break. I don't know what I'm more embarrassed about. The fact that they want us to believe that this story is actually real, that somebody hacked into Elmo's account, or the fact that there's 600,000 people following Elmo, commenting to Elmo, interacting with Elmo. And then they talk about a mental health crisis. Well, guess what? Okay, if you checked in with Elmo and responded to a tweet from Elmo, you probably should be in a padded room somewhere, okay? Because it's a puppet from Sesame Street. But as we know with Mockingbird Media and MK Ultra, we live among a large amount of sheeple. And no, that word sheeple is not offensive. People out there get offended. They're like, Jesus had his sheep, right? We're his sheep, his disciples. It's a different word, sheeple. It's people who could very easily be herded like a sheep on a farm. So don't take it too seriously. I know people out there, little keyboard words, get very upset about every word. That's really what Christianity has become, right? Everybody nitpicking and interacting with each other, fighting. It's not this law, and it's not that, and it's not Sunday worship, and it's instead of, uniting as Christians. But of course, this is the world we live in, where some people out there can't even watch the content on this channel because they're offended by the word sheeple, right? But sheeple do actually exist. They're people who are led like herded, like sheep, like we see here with Elmo and the people out there who interact with Elmo. I thank everybody for being here. I hope you're all doing well. God bless you and your families as always.